Welcome back to Mimi's Organic Eats. Today we're making homemade organic caramel corn. And now I grew up in Chicago with the famous Garrett's popcorn that we had for every major holiday celebration. My grandma always went downtown and made sure that we had caramel corn for Christmas, for Thanksgiving, for Easter. So it was a big part of my childhood. So whenever the leaves start to turn and fall comes around, I start craving that nostalgic caramel popcorn. So while many store-bought versions of caramel corn can have corn syrup, added flavors, colors, and other things that I don't think are necessary, I'm going to show you how to make homemade organic caramel corn from scratch. So the first step to making homemade caramel corn is making the popcorn. So you're going to need a large stock pot with a lid. Make sure you guys have a lid because we don't want popcorn flying everywhere. Next I have 142 grams of popcorn kernels, and then I have 28 grams of coconut oil in the large pot. And now I'm going to take just 3 popcorn kernels and I'm going to put this in the pot with the coconut oil. And so we're going to add just those few kernels to the pot at first because these are going to be our test kernels. We want to make sure that the pot is just hot enough to pop the corn immediately, so that's why we put in these test kernels. And as soon as the kernels pop, then we're going to add in the remaining kernels. So we're going to put this over medium heat. So once you put over medium heat, you want to cover with a lid. Then we're just going to listen for these kernels to pop. As soon as our test kernels pop, then we're going to add in all the remaining popcorn kernels. Then cover with the lid immediately after. As the popcorn starts to pop, you want to intermittently shake the pot. This is going to help move some of those pop kernels up to the top and let the kernels that haven't popped sink down to the bottom so they can get that heat so they can pop as well. So you want to keep shaking your pot every few seconds or so. As soon as the popping stops to 1 second between pops, then we're going to remove the pot from the heat. Now I have a super large mixing bowl here. This is going to help the popcorn cool completely, and it's also going to be the bowl we're going to use to coat it in the caramel. So it's great if you have a really large mixing bowl. So we want to let our popcorn cool completely before we start making the caramel. This is essential because we want to make sure that the caramel has something solid to stick to. And so if you have hot popcorn, it can't stick as well and it can result in an unideal texture when done. We want to have that perfect, buttery, crispy, caramely texture with a little bit of snap. Now that your popcorn is completely cooled, it's time to preheat the oven to 350 degrees. We're going to set our popcorn aside, and now it's time to make the caramel. So first we're going to line 2 baking sheets with parchment paper. And now this is going to make 2 baking sheets worth of caramel corn. Trust me, you're going to want every last bit of it. We want to make sure that we have these ready so that once our caramel corn is mixed, we can pour it right out onto our baking sheets. So now it's time to make the homemade caramel. And this caramel has no corn syrup. It only has 3 organic ingredients: cane sugar, butter, and cream. And you guys know if you follow my channel that I am super passionate about only making caramel with just those 3 ingredients. You can make any kind of caramel that you need with just these ingredients. So always make sure that you're weighing your ingredients when making caramel. It is super important because the ratios really matter. So I have 340 grams of organic cane sugar in a 3-quart pot. We're going to put this over low to medium heat. And so I say you want to be around low to medium because if you have a super powerful range, then you're going to want to stay more towards the low side so you don't burn the caramel. So make sure you guys grab a high heat spatula. You always want to be using a high heat spatula whenever making caramel. This is going to ensure that your spatula doesn't warp or, even worse, melt a piece off into the caramel, which I have definitely had happen before. So if you've made any of my caramel recipes before, this is the same exact process. We're going to dry burn the sugar until it melts. So you want to start out by lightly stirring the sugar. Continue to stir as the sugar starts to clump. As soon as it clumps, it will begin to melt. Continue to stir until it is melted completely. You want to make sure you have no chunks of sugar before adding in the butter. Once the sugar is completely melted and there's no chunks, then we're going to add in 113 grams of salted butter. Be careful because steam will rise up. Continue stirring the entire time and ensure the butter is completely combined. And then last, we're going to add in a 1/4 cup of heavy whipping cream. Same thing here, some steam will rise up. Just ensure you're stirring the entire time. As soon as the cream is completely combined, remove the caramel from the heat. So once we have our caramel finished, now we're just going to add a little bit of salt and some baking soda. So since we didn't salt our popcorn, we're going to add a little bit of salt to this caramel. Now the baking soda is crucial for this caramel corn. This is going to ensure that the caramel becomes a little bit softer and a little bit airy. This is going to ensure that it's not too hard or brittle and it won't break your teeth. Now we're going to pour the caramel over the popcorn and stir to coat it completely. And you want to work pretty quickly here because the caramel is going to start to cool. So we want to make sure that we coat the popcorn completely, then we're going to spread it out onto both the baking sheets. This is why I said you have to have a big bowl. So the caramel will begin to cool as soon as it's off the heat. So you want to work quickly when stirring the caramel with the popcorn to ensure you coat it evenly. Then you want to spread it out evenly onto both baking sheets. If you have some pieces of popcorn that aren't completely coated in caramel, don't worry, that's okay. Once the caramel corn is spread out onto the trays, then we're going to bake this at 350 degrees for about 7 to 10 minutes. Once the caramel corn comes out of the oven, if you have some pieces of popcorn that aren't completely coated in caramel, just go ahead and give it a stir immediately after it comes out. This is going to ensure that the caramel is still a little bit melty and it'll coat those pieces up just right. It doesn't take long for the caramel corn to cool. Then you can break it up and you'll have delicious homemade caramel corn with only a few organic ingredients. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like and leave a comment below. And if you want more nostalgic recipes made better with organic ingredients, be sure to hit that subscribe button and join me next time in the kitchen.